Okay, so you've probably been told that hard work gets you promoted, right? That competence is always rewarded, and the workplace is this fair, totally rational environment. Well, we need to shatter that illusion right out of the gate. If you're dealing with a toxic manager, you're not playing a game of merit anymore. You are playing a game of psychological leverage. So, in this explainer, let's take a really clinical look at the hidden architecture of corporate power.
It is better to be feared than loved. Now, you've definitely heard this before. This exact phrase has been weaponized by almost every manipulative, power-hungry manager in corporate history. They use it as this sort of intellectual shield, right? A way to justify their intimidation, their unpredictability, and honestly, their cruelty against competent professionals like you. But, they always conveniently leave out the second half of that sentence. If you cannot be both. See, Machiavelli actually wasn't writing a how-to manual for tyrants. He was warning us about the brittle, fragile nature of fear-based leaders. So today, we're taking his real playbook to outmaneuver manipulative authority. And look, if you're sitting there right now feeling just completely exhausted, wondering if it's just you, it's really not. Recent workplace research reveals a pretty staggering reality. 85% of workers report their boss actively harms their work-life balance. That private anxiety, that sudden tightening in your chest right before a one-on-one meeting, it's completely validated. You are absolutely not alone in this.
And the data gets even more clinical from there. Up to 4% of business leaders actually meet the clinical criteria for psychopathy, which is a rate significantly higher than the general population. It's a total gut punch of a reality, I know, but it proves that your work environment might literally be structurally rigged. You aren't just dealing with a bad personality fit here. You are actively navigating a systemic trap.
The neurological diagnosis: why competent people freeze.
So, why is it that highly intelligent, super capable people consistently lose to, frankly, less competent political operators? Well, it really comes down to a biological phenomenon called the amygdala hijack. When you perceive a threat, it triggers your amygdala, literally flooding your body with cortisol and shutting down your logical reasoning. Your toxic manager actually uses shifting goalposts and intentional chaos to trigger this exact hijack. They are forcing your nervous system into a chronic fight-or-flight survival state.
Think of it like this: there's an invisible battle happening inside your head. On one side, you have your prefrontal cortex. That's the seat of logic, strategy, and impulse control. On the other side is your amygdala, your biological threat detector. This manufactured chaos we talked about actually reroutes your blood flow, turning off your strategic intelligence right when you need it the absolute most. So no, you don't magically get dumber under pressure. Your brain is literally being hijacked.
The Machiavellian shift, from employee to clinical architect.
To really take our power back, we have to abandon the therapeutic language and the self-blame. Because honestly, they just don't work on manipulative power structures. Machiavelli gives us this absolutely perfect structural analogy. The toxic manager plays the lion, but you are going to play the fox. The toxic boss relies on the brute force roar of the lion. The demands, the posturing, the fear. But the true strategist, they don't roar back. They adapt, they observe, and they outlast.
Defensive protocols, internal regulation, and decoupling.
Here's the thing: you cannot execute a high-level corporate strategy if your own nervous system is actively working against you. We have to get that prefrontal cortex back online using some simple biology. Step 1, maintain eye contact. Step 2, slow your breathing with a deliberately long exhale. And step 3, wait 3 full seconds before speaking. We call this vagal decoupling. That long exhale directly stimulates your vagus nerve. It acts like a physical brake pedal for your stress, lowering your cortisol and keeping those logic centers fully online during an attack.
Once your biology is calm, it's time to deploy the gray rock method. Now, this is an advanced clinical technique where you intentionally become as unresponsive, boring, and emotionally unreactive as a literal gray rock. And this is crucial because manipulative managers, they're basically dopamine addicts. They feed on your emotional distress. Denying them your emotional reaction completely starves them of their supply.
Offensive protocols, external strategy, and asymmetric warfare.
All right, so once you've mastered the internal defense, it's time to go on the offensive and actively neutralize their ability to extract information or twist the narrative. Our very first move here is the silence strategy. You need to conceal your intentions completely, never outshine the master directly, and build strict information asymmetry. In short, Stop oversharing upward. Stop giving them your weekend plans, your anxieties, or your unpolished kind of raw thoughts. You want to maintain a warm, precise, but absolutely impenetrable clinical boundary.
See, we counter their fog and chaos with pure structure. Notice how their reliance on verbal ambiguity is instantly neutralized by your written email confirmation, or how their emotional provocations in meetings are met with just blank, neutral, delayed responses. And their attempts at isolating you? Those are countered by your cross-departmental alliance mapping. You are systematically dismantling their levers of power, one by one.
Because documentation creates light, and light is incredibly expensive for manipulators. This right here is your documentation operating system. From now on, every single time you get a vague, verbal directive, you send a polite, totally neutral summary email. Just something simple like, per our conversation, I will execute X and Y. Doing this entirely eliminates their plausible deniability. You're forcing accountability right out of the shadows.
Alliance mapping. Building the invisible coalition. A toxic manager fundamentally relies on keeping their victims isolated and constantly doubting themselves. So, to counter this, you must build an intelligence network. But, and this is a big but, you have strict rules to follow. Never gossip or vent, ever. Instead, ask neutral, clarifying questions, share observable behavioral patterns, and secure goodwill outside of your own department. The goal here is to literally transform your personal frustration into undeniable organizational risk. You are creating a systemic liability that the company simply cannot ignore.
The exit architecture, the leverage of indifference.
Now, this is the master protocol that underpins the entire system we're talking about today. Because, at the end of the day, true leverage requires being fully prepared to walk away. Machiavelli really said it best. Never allow yourself to become dependent on a single source of power. Let's shatter that illusion of blind corporate loyalty. Your toxic manager's power over you scales exactly with your perceived desperation to stay. If they know you need the job, they own your nervous system.
So what's the antidote? It's strategic indifference. It means caring deeply about your craft and doing your work well, while holding literally zero emotional dependence on the dysfunctional system around you. Actively maintain an updated resume, build up a financial buffer, and nurture an external network. Just knowing you have options instantly downregulates your nervous system. It literally changes your physical posture at work.
So when we bring all of this together, we form an impenetrable psychological shield. Vagal decoupling, the gray rock defense, information warfare, the documentation OS, and the exit architecture. These 5 interlocked protocols completely neutralize the toxic manager's entire playbook. They can't trigger you, they can't gaslight you, and they can't isolate you anymore. I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought. The fox always outlasts the lion. So which one will you be? It is time to stop surviving as the victim and start strategizing as the fox. You've got the playbook now. You understand the psychology. The ultimate power is finally back in your hands. But before you go, you need to realize that the next layer is next. While these defenses are incredibly effective at protecting you at work, there are hidden neurological costs that can actually follow you home. They infiltrate your weekends and even your sleep well after you've mastered these protocols. It's a pretty chilling reality, to be honest. But we're going to decode that exact hidden trap in our next explainer. Keep learning, keep strategizing, and I will see you then.